I had some questions more specific about the feet and showing more close-ups of the feet in specific movements. If you looked at my two videos, one about the use of the foot in the Latin dances and then also the terminology and use of foot in the ballroom dances, we just touched on the idea of what inside edge and toe and ball of foot means in actuality with the bones of the feet and the weight distribution. And also we looked a little bit at the anatomy of the foot and ankle, which we'll do again today. And I did a couple examples, but in order to apply it more frequently in the dance and to begin to feel the advantages of your balance and mobility and understanding how to move across the feet, had some requests for some more specific dance movements. So I'll do a series of videos where I can actually show here at home where it's quiet and I can get a close-up of the feet so that you can see what you can't see from a distance in the studio with a shoe on. You really can't see all this activity that's going on, say under the slacks, under the dress, and inside the shoe. So we'll take a close-up look and then I'll also show how I'm going to use the feet in different specific movements. My little helper here. The step that we'll look at in this video is the feather step, and we'll look at the man's part of the feather step where we're going to be moving through the foot forward. And one of the points we want to make is that we don't move through the foot directly in a straight line, but we move through the foot on these angles. Are you taking over the camera? So I'll show you with the bones of the feet, and also then I'll draw some lines on my foot to show where the weight is moving when we're moving across the big toe joint and when we're moving out towards the more lateral foot bones, and also how we're going to be using the metatarsal head and the edge of the foot. I'm going to make a line here going down through the second metatarsal head and the second toe. This is where generally we want to be aligned if we're doing exercises to work on the alignment of the knee, stationary with strength training and so on. But when we start to move, we're not necessarily going to move in that direction. We'll start in that direction and then we'll start what we call pronating, and that is to move through the joint of the big toe. I did a video last week in the studio just talking about the chasse and then also looking at the weave to show two examples of where we will pronate as we leave one foot going to the inside to go to the other foot, how we move through that big toe joint, and that's called pronating, where our weight will move through here. Also in dancing there are times when we'll need to move more to the lateral metatarsal heads and toes. So we're not going to dance off of the edge here. I'm going to draw a line here around this border. Right here, this metatarsal head that leads to the big toe, and as you can see mine is pronounced, I have a bit of a tailor's bunion there. That's the head of this metatarsal, and this is like a border or like a wall right here. We need to use that bone when we're standing on full foot and we put the foot down. We're not trying to stay on what we call the inside edge or the inside of the foot all the time, but we need to feel those four corners of the foot, as I talked about in my previous video. First metatarsal head and the little toe metatarsal head, and then looking around at the back to the heel. So when we're standing with our weight centered in our foot, we will feel all the toes on the floor and we'll feel this border. If you looked at your feet or you're walking in the sand and you would see your footprint, you would see that shape like a kidney bean shape. That's the outer border of the foot, which is taking a certain amount of weight. The weight is not falling, hopefully, into the arches. So it's important for us to understand that this is a very stable area to use in our foot. You can see my feet as I dance the man's feather step and enter the foot. Now, if I were working in a strength area, we would say, all right, the knee needs to be aligned with that arrow that goes through my second toe. But what I want to do, I enter the foot and I'll feel the weight moving across the foot, is how we describe it. Across all these metatarsal bones and moving out through the big toe joint. So that's across the foot and out through the big toe joint. You can see how I'm using that foot. Now this gives us a tremendous amount of control and balance. It's like the building that's built in a flexible way to withstand an earthquake. It's not a flat foot like a brick. We're not just trying to move directly through the foot. We're moving out of the big toe joint. Now, as we're going onto the rise also, so we have a number of things happening here. I'm not only rolling through the foot and pronating through the foot, but I'm also rising to the preparing to step outside partner. And then we'll be approaching through the big toe and first metatarsal joint. So when we're moving medially here, we're moving from the big toe joint across to the next big toe joint to absorb the weight. And then the weight is taken all across those metatarsal heads and those toes. And now as our weight moves across the foot, it's moving more in this line. So we're going out through, not through the little toe. You can see now I could injure my ankle. Not through the big toe, because I'm not going to be able to get the shaping that I need. So I'm moving now more this way through my foot, but keeping the big toe pad on the floor and pushing the penny through with this foot. If you were not aware of that, you might not see this sort of lateral movement. I'm exaggerating it now, but you can see if I get actually out to that outer border, I'm risking my ankle now. Now another problem here, it's very tempting here for the leg to be turned out. If we do this, the knee is now dancing in towards our partner. So we're going to have an internal rotation in that foot. So we're now absorbing again into the toes, but not from the side of the foot, and not necessarily the inside here. I'm going more into this more centered area as I first take weight into the foot. So this is now the second quick. We're up on the two toes in the split position, and now I'm going to absorb the weight down through that foot. And as I go on into the next action, whether it's a three-step reverse turn, I will now move across the foot and leave again through the big toe joint. So that covers the man's feather step. That would also be the lady's back feather. The back feather, we're using the man's terminology, of course, so she's moving forward, and her part and her use of the feet would be exactly the same. But now we want to look at the lady's part of the actual feather step, and we're going to be rolling now back through the heel. And the heel also, with that mobility through leg and foot bones, we can be moving out of different edges or different portions of our heel as the weight moves across the foot. But again, entering the foot through the toes to begin with. This may be a little harder to see with the arrows that I have moving forward in my foot. And of course the lady in the foxtrot has no foot rise on the feather step as she's moving backward. So as she's moving into her first step backward, she's going to approach now through those first couple of metatarsal heads, extending the ankle and then moving back and absorbing through the foot. And of course, if the woman would have her foot turned in or too far turned out, now we have a problem. So the foot is fairly parallel, and that's felt through an internal rotation again through the thighs. So I'm entering through those first three toe joints. And as her heel finds the floor, she'll be drawing the other heel back, and she'll be leaving a little bit through the inside of the heel. Again, because we're moving medially, we're moving to the inside from one leg to the other. So I am approaching now, this is the preparing for the partner to step outside. This is the side lead, shoulder lead, right hip moving back action, where she's rolling from the heel, absorbing into the first metatarsal joint, and then going through the foot. Now my arrows are pointing out, but she would be absorbing now diagonally across her foot this way. Now this is a very important place to feel the border I talked about of the metatarsal joint leading to the little toe. We don't want to fall off of that, but we also don't want to avoid the security that this border gives us. This is a very important part of the feather finish. We see this all the time where the ladies don't understand how to move their weight through this foot. This is the up, no foot rise action, and it's very important that she has no foot rise so that she releases her toes from the floor and rolls through. So I'm feeling the weight is approaching through the big toe joint and across these bones, and then following a line this way and out through the heel. So again, this border is quite secure on the floor at this time. So it's important that the sense of my weight is moving back through, again, that kidney bean shaped foot as the other leg is swinging back. So I'm very aware of the weight being felt in this surface of my foot. And now as the foot is taken behind you, again, this is not a medial action moving across big toe to big toe. So I'm taking my weight in a more central or towards those second, third, even fourth toe. And then there's the absorption. When the absorption of the weight happens, the weight spreads out through the entire foot. And again, I'm very aware now of this border being secure on the floor. I can really stress the foot. Sometimes we can develop a little plantar fasciitis when we have a lot of tension in the arch, and someone may be trying to stay to the inside too much of the foot and not being quite friendly enough to the outside. So I'm making a point of that because I need to feel all the time in the whole foot position, the pads of all the toes on the floor, and weight through here. The problem again is too much weight here where the ankle was very, very vulnerable, or keeping that bone off the floor, or feeling that it's dangerous to go there. So we have to be able to feel how we use the border of that foot there to secure us, and how we can move the weight on top of that foot. And I can even move my hip outside of that as long as I keep this pressure with the big toe. I also have pressure on the outside, and I'm very secure there. And remember, the lady is also wearing a high heel, so she has to be able to spread her feet out in that shoe and find as much surface area as possible, and it's certainly more difficult in the heels, but it will help you if you realize just how much foot surface you have to work with.